All right, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo. What a power-packed week and weekend in sports. You got the NBA, NHL playoffs going on, Major League Baseball, we're past the 40-game mark, PGA Championship, and of course, the NFL doing what the NFL does best, and that is schedule drop. Guys, fire the cannons. All right, guys, we have losers, and then we have Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin did a Vanity Fair expose on, and how he ended up getting to LSU from Ole Miss. He did it with Paul Feinbaum, and we got 2 weeks until we get to the SEC Media Day, right? Right out of the Lane Kiffin playbook. What does this guy do? He throws as much shade and trying to wipe Ole Miss off the face of the planet as much as he possibly could by saying and bringing up that it was difficult to recruit at Ole Miss because of the racial tensions of the past and because of the mascot, the rebel, all of those things that helped get him the LSU job. None of this stuff was brought up when Lane Kiffin was there in Oxford. But now, because he still has an ass that the organization didn't allow him to coach during the playoffs, he still got an ass with this. And so he's going back after Ole Miss. My take would be this. Are you under the impression that the SEC hasn't had racial issues in the past? In the last 100 years, dude, there's only been 5 black head football coaches in that entire conference's history. On top of that, currently, there are actually no black head football coaches in that conference. And you're sitting there throwing shade at Ole Miss. I'll tell you what, between Sarkisian, who's over at Texas, also throwing shade that, hey, you don't really have to do much at Ole Miss to get a degree there. All you have to do is take basket weaving. On top of all this, they must really, really be upset with what Ole Miss has done in elevating their program and getting into a position where they can play for a national championship. This guy, Lane Kiffin, has failed every single place that he has ever coached, except for Ole Miss. He should be kissing their ass. Was he a success at Tennessee? No. Was he a success at USC? No. It's pretty rich, 2 drunks, Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin, who has talked about his struggles with alcohol and drugs, is the Pied Piper on what's wrong with Ole Miss's history. Let's not forget Steve Sarkisian, fight on, right there at a USC alumni event. Or Lane talking about all of his stuff that he did when he was getting to the point where, again, his wife left him. I mean, what are we doing here, guy? Ole Miss has done a great job at elevating the program. Albeit, look, back in 1981, when I was being recruited by Ole Miss, the rebel flag that they had, that they used to come out to, absolutely, that was something that I wasn't interested in doing. But today, because of NIL and transfer portal, dude, you put an $850,000 annual salary in front of me, I'll play on the moon. This has got nothing to do with it. He's talking about grandparents, the 1960s. When it comes to like the racial tensions with segregation, that stuff's in the rear view, guy. Today, kids want to do this. They want TV exposure and they want money. Nobody asks about a program's history. They only ask this question: how much you paying me? All right. Well, guess what? The conference commissioners got a reality talk this week by ESPN. Let's not forget something here. ESPN, the college football playoff, this is their event. This isn't an NCAA event. ESPN created this 12-team tournament. People like Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, wants to expand to 24, right? And you're looking at some of the other commissioners, like Greg Sankey, they'd like to see 24 as well. Well, pump the brakes, okay? ESPN came down and said, we're not going past 16. So help me out here. It's pretty incredible that a television network could tell college commissioners, the Power 4 commissioners, sit down, guy, we run this. So what's the conflict of interest here then with ESPN? So if you have broadcast rights for the ACC and the SEC, why would you pick Big Ten teams to play in this tournament when you don't broadcast their teams or send College Game Day to promote those other programs? How is this not a conflict of interest that ESPN is in complete control of the college football playoff? What they say goes? Hey, man, we know what this is now. This is a made-for-television event by ESPN and by Disney. How about the politics that goes into this? I don't want you, but I'll take you. Based on what? TV ratings, logo, brand. That's what ESPN is right now. No wonder people are leaving that network. Take a look at their stock. They're getting killed on it as well. Hey, speaking of an organization that knows exactly what they're doing, how about the National Football League? So Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini's story has been one of the main topics for the last, month? With all the stuff that we've seen in the New York Post, you would have thought also that the National Football League would have went like this. Hey, let's try to outrun, and let's not get anywhere near this Mike Vrabel and Patriots story. What did they do? Week 1, they opened the National Football League season up with guess who? You got it, the New England Patriots. That's exactly NFL, and that is so NFL. Dude, these guys don't run from controversy. They embrace it. You now have a villain. The Patriots are back to being the villain again. How insane is that when you look at how the National Football League, you would have thought, would have looked at this situation and said, hey, guess what? We don't really want to be involved with this. Commissioner came out on draft night, and he was talking and said, hey, look, at the end of the day here, this is not anything to do with the conduct policy of the National Football League. How in hell is this not a conduct policy issue when you got people now looking at the New England Patriots and how the New England Patriots have done business over the last decade or so with Robert Kraft being the owner? You put them on the front game, the main game, the number one game of the year, the opening of the National Football League. You put the New England Patriots right there front and center. You can't get any better in how the National Football League markets their league. Look, the dropping of the schedule, the putting the Patriots in the opener. This is so NFL. They do it so well. The NFL, they get the Super Bowl in February. Then they get free agency. Then they get the combines. Then they get the draft. Then they get a scenario where you drop the schedule, and before you know it, it'll be June 1. Teams will have to set their rosters, and we're into July's training camp, and we're into September, and we're ready to see Patriots and Seahawks. You would have thought they would have outran this. No way. The NFL embraces this stuff. This is what the NFL and how the NFL takes a controversy and turns it into positive publicity for them. Can you imagine? You're going to be in Seattle, one of the toughest places to play in the National Football League, and the number one storyline that you have that night on opening night is going to be the Mike Vrabel story, and really not what Seattle did a year ago with them winning the Super Bowl. Make no mistake, this is absolutely so NFL. All right, our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason, folks. It's because they win. Over 30 years, this company has been here, and it's about protecting families and protecting you. If you've ever been injured on the job, with over $30 billion recovered, I told you about the family in Pennsylvania, got $650K, they got nearly $30 million in settlement, or the family in Florida, they got $350,000, they ended up getting nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. We're going to talk some round ball with one of our favorite leadoff hitters. You got it, Coach Dave Young next, right here on Sports Grid.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So they're like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on Sports Grid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on Sports Grid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March. So some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note too, DraftKings and FanDuel were only active for about 12 days.
Newswire, only on Sports Grid.
NBA playoffs are going on right now. Boy, we may be going towards a pretty decent final here. My guy, Coach James Young, joins us here. JY, I got to start it off before we get to, the potential matchup in the finals here. LeBron James, what's next for LBJ?
Big Sills, it's always a pleasure to be on with you as always. And I don't think it's with the Lakers. I think if he wants to run it back with his Lakers team, even with a healthy Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, they're not better than the Spurs. They're not better than the Thunder. I don't think they're better than Minnesota. I know they beat Houston, but if Houston's healthy with Fred VanVleet and Kevin Durant and Steven Adams, I don't think they're better than them. So why would he want to run it back if he wants to get another ring, unless he really wants to play with Bronny? I think LeBron's going to leave, and I think LA will try and look at a sign and trade. And there's some interesting storylines. I just did Pro Basketball Today before you with our good friend Kevin Walsh, and we were talking a little bit about maybe he goes to Golden State now that Steve Kerr got the 2-year extension to kind of set up for the retirement of obviously Steph Curry. I think it's East. I think you're looking at, honestly, the three teams that are left in the East are the possibilities, in my opinion. There's Cleveland, where he can go back home if they can't secure the ring. There's the Knicks, where everybody thought he should have went years ago when he made the decision to go to Miami. And then, honestly, I think the sleeper that no one's going to talk about is Detroit. They need an adult in the room. They need someone that can facilitate the ball. Let's be honest, even at 41 years old, he's better than Tobias Harris. You've seen him in Philadelphia, Big Sills. So to me, LeBron's going to have his suitors, and if he's smart, he goes East and he stays out of the West.
I'm going to throw this at you here, and I'm probably going to knock your socks off when I tell you one of my younger friends back in the day was Worldwide Wes. He's in the organization with the New York Knicks, and him and LeBron, tight boys. Is that a possibility that he goes there and goes to the New York Knicks?
I'll say it to you this way, and this is the best way I could say it that could maybe explain it to people in regard to LeBron. LeBron is like every athlete, especially world class, it's ego. And this is not being rude. This is the truth, Big Sills. You were a pro athlete. You had an ego. I mean, I think I have an ego a little bit, but, I never played pro sports. But here's the way I look at it, Big Sills. If the Knicks don't win a title, and LeBron goes to Gotham, a team that hasn't won a championship since 1973, and they win the NBA championship, now maybe this GOAT debate, which I hate, goes to bed. Because he won it in his hometown of Cleveland, he won in Miami, and he won in 2 of the 3 iconic franchises in the NBA, which would be the Lakers and the Knicks. Be interesting if he went to New York and won a title, because I think that could change a lot of people's minds in the GOAT debate.
Do you think he is the best player in the history of the league?
Sills, I hate this argument, and I've talked about it on my Substack, where I now call what I call the G.O.D., G.O.D., the greatest of a decade, because the game is so much changed, right? So in this generation, hands down, he's the greatest player. I'm 49, so if you're putting me, Coach, you got to answer. I'm gonna go with Jordan. I'm gonna go with Jordan for the six for the championship. I'm gonna go with Jordan that he did it all in Chicago. I'm not counting the Wizards. And think about this, Big Sales. If Jordan doesn't retire after the 93 season, they win it in 94. They probably win it in 95. Now we're talking 8 in a row. And Jerry Krause is a reason why that Bulls team broke up after 1998, obviously with the Last Dance. So we don't know how many in a row Michael would have won. So if you ask me, I say it's Jordan, but I'd rather keep it contextual in regards to generations or decades. And you could say, based since he's been in, since mid-2000s, late 2000s, the best player in the world for about a 10 to 15-year stretch is LeBron James.
Absolutely. And, let's not forget something about that Bulls team. Nobody beat him on the floor. A boardroom beat him. Krause and Reinsdorf ripped that team apart, and nobody ever will know what happened and how many championships maybe they left on the floor there. Spurs take out the T-Wolves. I mean, backcourt was insane the other night. You tell me, man. I mean, this team they look like they're getting better, Coach. Do you agree, the Spurs?
Let me tell you something. Big Sills, this is the Rocky trilogy, 5, 6. I don't know how many Creed. I don't know how many of these Rocky moves they have. But we're about to have Rocky 1. Because them in OKC, unless you ship one of them to the East, are going to be playing each other every year for about the next 5 to 7 years. And that backcourt, Fox, Castle, obviously the rookie Dylan Harper, Champagnie. Think Philadelphia could have used Champagnie right now? Calvin Johnson. And then that 7'5" alien, because we've never seen someone, like I said last week, he's like the movie Weird Science, Big Sills. You can't, I've never seen this. All the things that he is. So it's going to be fun to watch. Buckle up, folks, because this rivalry and the fact that these two teams are young and they're the best run organizations with young head coaches, Big Sills, we're about to see this run for at least, in my opinion, the next 5 years, unless there's some kind of injury or one of the teams break up.
All right, so I have to get your take on the mess in Philly with Daryl Morey being blown out. And, man, Bob Myers takes over the reins now to kind of try to right the ship. You tell me, man, what's the next direction here for the Sixers?
Well, I want to make sure. I had David Shepard on from NBA radio and Sirius XM, and he made a great point. Like, Philadelphia hasn't won in 25 years. So how much is this Daryl Morey? Embiid can't stay healthy. Paul George, father time caught up with him. But they got that young backcourt. And I'm imploring Philadelphia fans to stay patient. I know you don't want to hear the process, but the thing you don't want to do is trade Maxey, even though he gives you a lot in return. Keep those two, get another year of Paul George, stretch him out, and hope you can get something if you want to move on from Joel Embiid. But tough times are here for Philadelphia for the next year or two.
No doubt, man. I mean, look, I'm a big Bob Myers fan, too. I mean, let's see what he ends up doing. We're going to talk some WNBA and a little bit more in the playoffs with JY next, right here on Sports Grid.
We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So they're like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on Sports Grid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on Sports Grid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March, so some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note, too, DraftKings and FanDuel were only active for about 12 days.
Newswire, only on Sports Grid.
All right, Coach JY already doing the right thing here. Yes, Miami will win the national championship this year. I am making a bold statement and bold prediction. My Canes are going to win the national title this season, and they're going to do it against Ohio State for the national championship. How you like that, JY?
Oh, big Sills. I mean, that's music to my ears to beat the Buckeyes. And shout out to my best friend Donnie McDermott, who may be a bigger U fan than I am, and his wife Jess is a Buckeye. Oh, sign me up right now for that, Big Sills. Sign me up.
What do you make of James Harden passing Steph Curry 10th all time in scoring in postseason play?
You know what, Big Sills? To quote the famous philosopher Derek Coleman, whoop-de-damn-do. That's just the fact that he's just had plenty of opportunities. And James Harden's had a fantastic career. But there are legacies that are on the line in Game 7 between the Cavs and the Pistons. And I'm saying this right now, and he is not the only one that's got a legacy on the line. That includes Donovan Mitchell, who's only been to one conference finals in his career. That was in Utah. It includes Kenny Atkinson, who's got his second chance as being head coach. And it's Evan Mobley, a guy that's Defensive Player of the Year last year that people thought was a top 15, top 20 player in the world, who now all of a sudden disappears in big spots. A lot of legacies on the line besides James Harden in Game 7 tomorrow.
All right, so let's go down this lane here, too. Game 7, what do you got? Pistons or
Ready?
Cavaliers?
Sills, with all that being said, I don't know why I'm doing this. I got a feeling that Cleveland's going to win. I just think something is going to happen with Donovan Mitchell. He was awful in Game 6. He'll bounce back. Harden will do enough. And I think you got the perfect storm with all the Pistons guys playing well around Cade. I think that comes back to the Pack at home. I actually think Cleveland may upset them.
All right, so let's go to the Knicks here. I grew up, I remember when I was a really, really young kid, 1973. That was one of the first times I started watching sports. The Mets were good. The Knicks were good. The Jets, last time they were good, you put a man on the moon. So here, are we looking at potentially the New York Knicks going all the way to the NBA Finals? And can they beat OKC or maybe San Antonio?
I think they have a better chance against San Antonio because they've had success. listen, the way their offense has been on a heater the last 7 games, anything's possible. They just kind of seem to flip their offense, going through Cole Anthony Towns and that high post top of the key and run cutters. It also has unlocked Jalen Brunson to be more efficient with him coming off the ball. But anything is possible. But I'll tell you what, Big Sills, if the Knicks win the title, do me a favor, folks, don't be in New York City. They may burn that city down. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's the only sport in New York, and they got multiple sports in hockey. No one cares enough about hockey, even though the Rangers run the town, right? The Jets and the Giants kind of split New York, but there's more Giants fans. Same thing with the Mets and Yankees. I don't even think it happened. Most of Brooklyn don't even root for the Nets. So if the Knicks ever win it, Lord have mercy. You probably would also have to check in on me because I may go missing just to celebrate for a couple of days.
I'll tell you what, that would be insane to go down the Canyon of Heroes to see the New York Knicks with a championship. That would be insane here. You know, OKC, we talked a little bit about this last week, Coach. They look so much like the Tim Duncan championship run. You know, I mean, they're just so methodically built. Can anybody beat them? And are you shocked? I mean, they look better than they were a year ago. Can anyone stop them?
San Antonio. I'm not saying they're going to win the series, but they're about to get tested. And I think that not having Jalen Williams, J-Dub, is going to come back to this series because San Antonio's got the depth. They have the athleticism. They have the defensive firepower. And they got that 7'5" alien that you just can't replicate. I think this is going to be a great series, and it's good for basketball because now we can get rid of that. We need the big markets, the New Yorks, the LAs, the Chicagos, the Detroits. No. We need good basketball, and this is good young basketball. And these two franchises are going to change the way that you operate. It's not about the big three. It's about having 9 or 10 guys interchangeable who can all play high-level basketball.
I'll tell you something here, too. A couple years from now, I'd like to see what the conversation is going to be on Wemby. You put a couple NBA championships around that guy. I mean, Coach, you're going to be talking potentially about a guy who's going to be in a conversation with some of the greatest of all time. I want to see how it plays out yet. Long way to go. Coach, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. We are going to switch gears and talk to legendary Jeremy Roenick next, right here on Sports Grid. All right, here, man. This is really going to be an honor for me here. One of the very few Americans that go over 500 goals, and Jeremy Roenick is one of these men that has done this, and we really appreciate him joining us here, Hall of Famer Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy, I love you doing this, man. Thank you so much for coming aboard, and I'm going to start it off with you right now. The NHL, I mean, ratings are through the roof right now. You think it's in a great place?
It's in an amazing place. And by the way, Dan, thanks for having me on. I know you've been very persistent. My schedule's been crazy, but I'm so happy I can get on and listen to your show, which has been awesome. And now to talk hockey. And there's no question the game is as good as it's ever been. I think, we're actually getting a little bit more back to the 80s and 90s style of hockey with the extreme talent and level of play that we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years. It's physical, there's more hitting and big hitting, and there's a lot more fighting than we have seen in the last 5 years. And you kind of wonder if it kind of went back to the Four Nations a year ago, a little over a year ago, with the Canadians versus Americans. Obviously, the Kachuk brothers dropping the gloves in the first 9 seconds, and the amount of attention that the international game has gotten. And then the Olympics, which was not physical, not fighting, but some of the best hockey we've ever seen. And now I think we're seeing the best playoffs that we have probably ever seen. The level of play, the determination on these guys, the physicality, the players that are playing injured, showing how durable and how important it is to them. I mean, I don't know if you saw the list of injuries that the Flyers were playing through, but it's this is why hockey is great. This is why hockey is one of the best sports, and why that Stanley Cup is one of the hardest trophies to win, because you see these guys play at a level, and if you don't keep that level up, you're going to find yourself out of the playoffs very, very quickly. And some teams are just, that durability is just showing through.
I've talked to Phil Esposito about this, and I wonder what your take is. He hated the fact that the break with the Olympics was in the middle of the season. And, he came up with a wild idea of putting, the NHL in the summer games so it doesn't collide with the season and you not have it, in the middle. What's your take on that? I mean, some teams like Tampa Bay didn't come out of that. They were on a heater going in, Jeremy. After they came out, they kind of wobbled a bit. Yeah. What's your take on it?
I think it's two sides of the coin, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I love Espo. Espo is one of my favorite people of all time. He's got such a great charisma, personality guy. But you can't put a winter sport in the summer games. It just doesn't work that way. But listen, this game has become more popular because of the international mentality, and it's what we just talked about. When players are playing for their own country, there's a different feeling, there's a different look, there's a different mentality. And I think we have probably accumulated more fans over the last year and a half in hockey than we have maybe in the last 10 years combined. So you have to take the good with the bad. And some teams are not going to come out of that break. But the thing is everybody got the same situation, right? There's players that were there that had their top players playing there. The rest of the players had two and a half weeks off. Look what it did to the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo Sabres were one of the hottest teams going in, and they kept up on that. The Philadelphia Flyers came out of that rejuvenated, ready, and they put on one of the best pushes to make the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. So it's two sides of the coin. You can't have some of the best hockey and watch it at a weird spot in the season, and then complain about it. So for me, it was okay, but again, we still got to see great play, but it's up to them as professionals to be ready to come out of that break, come out prepared, and come out and do the same thing that they need to do. The only tough thing that I see is the condensed season. There's a lot of hockey that is condensed into a short amount of time. You get more injuries, you get more fatigue. It's definitely very, very difficult on the players, but I still think it's been one of the best hockey years I've seen in a long time.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you a tough one here since I got you here. Did you enjoy playing in front of the Chicago fan base or the Philadelphia fan base?
You know, I got the best of both worlds, right? So I got to play in front of Chicago Stadium fans and probably one of the greatest arenas of all time, where the energy and the noise and the participation from the fan was, and the history of the Chicago Stadium was amazing. What a treat! And you know, Blackhawk fans are they're very polished, they're very loyal. They might not be the Philadelphia in-your-face crazies that Philly is, but that's how I played, is in-your-face crazy. So when I got into Philly, it was like a match made in heaven, because I feel that I played the game exactly like a Philly fan roots for their team in the stands or in an everyday scenario. I wanted to punch people in the faces, and I know that that Philly fans want to punch people in the faces when it's not going their way. So we just hit it off. I was just very unfortunate that I had such a short stint in Philly. If I could go back to 2004 or 5, I would have called up Clarkie and said, "Yeah, by the way, I'm not lifting my no trade clause. I'm gonna stay right here in Philly and see if I can hammer this thing out the rest of my career." Although I did have an amazing end to my career in San Jose, which I'm very, very fortunate of. But so I would say, in the West Coast, I got Chicago. In the East, I got Philly. So I'm staying loyal to both.
All right. Well, here, I love it there, too. Bobby Clark reference is always wanted here, too, by the way. Speaking of running the Flyers, Keith Jones, Daniel Briere, and what the jobs that they have done with, retooling that team, getting the minor league system back in order again here a little bit. You have to be impressed with Keith Jones and what he's done.
Big time. And listen, I worked with Jonesy for 10 years on television. I have watched this guy break down hockey. I have watched him break down players, and to see what he thinks about the game and how he how he depicts the game. There's not many smarter hockey guys than Keith Jones. And it's only a matter of time for them to get back to where they are right now. They have their scouting staff is doing a great job. They're getting a good young nucleus in there. Danny Briere is, again, another high quality, amazing hockey mind that loves the game and is passionate about the game. I've known Danny since his rookie year, where he lived with me at my house with my family in Arizona for his first year. So I have a very, very strong attachment to Dan, and I know he's going to do a great job. And you can't take away the job of what Rick Tocchet has done for this team. To come there, have a lot of pressure of coming back to a city that loves him and try to get that team back into the playoffs. Been very, very difficult, but one that Toc I think he handled so well. And I got to tell you, I was at the game where they clinched against Carolina, where they clinched a playoff spot. And I ran down to the locker room to see Toc and congratulate them. This is 10 minutes after the game is over. And all of them, the coaches, Jonesy, Briere, Toc, they're sitting in the coaches' room already chalking up the board to outline what's next against Pittsburgh. 10 minutes after. That's called professionalism, and that's why that team is going to be hard to deal with in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Here, 30 seconds, Jeremy here. Jeremy, you got time for another segment? Want to talk some more
Absolutely.
hockey with you? All right. Hey, why is that Bell Center such off the charts?
Because it's history of hockey. It's history of hockey. There's so many unbelievable flags and banners up on that ceiling. The fans know the game so well. They are passionate about it. And as a player, you have to be ready, and to be able to represent that jersey is very, very important. It's a great place to play.
Absolutely. More with the Hall of Famer, Jeremy Roenick. We will do this next, right here on Sports Grid.
I know you did it. Talk.
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
All right, here, talking some hockey here with Hall of Famer Jeremy Roenick. And Jeremy, you know, I love teams that kind of have their coach's mentality on their sweater, you know? And is there any other team that has that in the Carolina Hurricanes than what you see with Rob BrindAmour and what he does with that? I mean, can anybody beat that team right now? I mean, they are on a heater.
They are on a heater, and it's, you know, you wondered when this was going to happen for Carolina, and it seems like it's all kind of falling into place for them. And there is no question that that team plays exactly like Rod BrindAmour played. You know, Roddy was an amazing offensive player, but he was an even better defensive player. And you talk about a guy who has professionalism oozing out every pore of his body. He is a hockey person to the gills, and the structure that he has this team playing in for 4 lines. I mean, it is a 4-line wave of absolute smothering defense, smothering offense, the strength on pucks, coming out of the corners with pucks, moving the puck, killing penalties. They are so structured. They are the most soundly structured team in the National Hockey League right now, without question. And then when you get a goaltender like Freddie Anderson coming out and playing the type of game that he's playing and backstopping that team when they do make a mistake, nobody really saw this coming with Freddie because he's been so injury prone. And I think it was a pretty ballsy call by BrindAmour to put him in to start, but it's been an absolute brilliant call. And this team is just, even when you think they're going to lose, even when you think they're in trouble, they find a way just to hold tight, stay steady, don't get out of the game plan, and get the job done. It's been really, really impressive to watch, and good for BrindAmour. I think he should be one of the coaches of the year this year without question, and hopefully at some point he's going to win that trophy because he deserves it. And unfortunately, again, he doesn't get any credit because he's in a very small market in Carolina, which sucks too.
Absolutely here. Okay, let's walk back to the potential opponent for that Hurricane team, the Canadians in Buffalo. Man, Lindy Ruff has done a great job with the Sabres. And how about St. Louis? Holy cow. I mean, Look, I think he is turning himself into one of the better coaches in the NHL right now. And he's got that Canadians team playing like he plays, with guts, the way he plays with energy. You think the Canadians get it done?
You know, it's going to be really hard for Buffalo to win in Montreal tonight, especially with the energy that's going to be in that stadium. I think a lot of people were surprised. I actually picked Montreal to beat Tampa in the first round. So I was really happy that I got through that one. I did pick Buffalo in this series simply because of home ice advantage. But again, the way that the Montreal Canadiens are playing, their durability, their ability to score big goals, and you know that's exactly how Marty St. Louis played. You know, he scored big goals at big times. Is there any other coach in the National Hockey League where you feel that he's actually a player on the bench, where he's actually a player in the locker room, where he kind of fits in the mentality, the way he talks to the guys, the way he treats the guys, the way his personality is in the locker room? He is literally like the sixth player on the ice. And I think the players really feed off that. And the guys who are supposed to score the goals are scoring the goals. And the guys who are supposed to play defense are playing defense. And Marty St. Louis has done an amazing job with this team. And I think they get it done tonight. I think Buffalo could be in a lot of trouble, which surprises me a little bit. But I think Lindy Ruff is the coach of the year without question. Here's a team that started 4-16 on the season, or something like that. And all of a sudden the GM gets fired. And then that whole team switches, and Lindy just takes this team and puts them on one of the best runs into the playoffs. I don't see him losing the coach of the year. And both these teams are very well structured and have had awesome seasons. It's too bad that one of them has to go home soon, but I think it's actually done tonight.
You know, Jeremy, you mentioned Tampa Bay. I do a radio show in Tampa in the mornings, Monday through Friday there. And I got to ask you, I mean, you know, 4 straight years that they've been knocked out in the opening round. 4 straight years. I mean, John Cooper is a Hall of Fame coach. There's no guy, he's got over 90 wins in the playoffs. I think he's 9th or he's 10th all time on the list. You got Vasilevsky, you got Kucherov, you got all of these players there. How do you shake that up? I mean, 4 straight years, that can't be with that kind of talent that you have on that team. What do you think they need to do in that building?
I don't think they need to do much, to tell you the truth, Dan. You know, it's unfortunate. I think they probably deserve better. last year and this year. Toronto beat them, but I don't think Toronto was the better team against Tampa, but they snuck out. That's a beast of a team, and I don't think they're going to get any pity from anybody in the National Hockey League over getting bowed out in the first round the last 4 years after the run that they went on. But they, and I'm going to agree with you. I think John Cooper it was without question a Hall of Famer. There's no question, but I think he's been the best coach over the last 15 years by far in the National Hockey League for so many different reasons, not just the winning the Stanley Cups and the amount of playoff seasons he's been in, but just his overall demeanor. And I think the way that the players play for him, the way that they think about him, he is truly one of the greatest guys in hockey. And, I see this team's continuing to play well. I don't see them diminishing it at all. I mean, Kucherov is a freak of nature. I don't know how he does it, but Braden Point, it's an awesome player. It's a fun team to watch. It's a fun team to watch. And unfortunately, I think they just ran out of gas this year.
Am I overstating this, Jeremy, about the addition of John Tortorella with that Vegas team? They just look like a different team with him there behind the bench there. Am I wrong when I say that? Did he add anything to that? Because they're playing well.
Let me tell you something. It's probably the surprise of the National Hockey League this year. Nobody saw that coming. I didn't see it coming. I don't think any media person saw that coming. I know nobody on the Vegas Golden Knights saw that coming. Whatever happened with Cassidy on that bench, that somebody lost some faith and they needed a little structure and someone to come in with a little more harder fist. And I think John Tortorella, I know John. He was my assistant coach for a few years. I know him personally. And I think he understands that the coaching method and mentality of how he used to do it has to be changed or altered just a little bit. I think he came into Vegas with that a little softer touch, but still having to make sure that these guys are being accountable for the way that they're playing in a structured way, in a hard physical way. One of the players actually texted me at the end of the season. I'll keep his name quiet, but he texted me and said, John Tortorella saved our season when he came in here. And if you have a player saying that, that's pretty solid.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I know John going back all the way when he was in Tampa Bay. And like you said, that welcome mat gets kind of worn out after about 5 years with John. But if you can take it,
he's my type of coach, man. He's my type of coach. I love him.
Absolutely. Jeremy, thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate you. Sileo says next, right here on Sports Grid. All right, my friends, we are here at Sileo Says, and now get this. We now have litigation that's going to try and stop transferring and to control NIL in college football. Look at this. A bipartisan act is being put in front of folks where people can sit there and try to stop this NIL thing, all brought to the head here with Ted Cruz. Folks, it's called, what is it called? The SCORE Act. The SCORE Act is going to try to stop transfers and is going to try to curtail a little bit of the NIL stuff that's going on in college football. One of the reasons that I got into sports talk radio years and years ago, and one of the reasons I still do this, is because I am so glad that NIL and transfer have completely upset college sports. Look at all the old heads who hate this. Look at all the people who are trying to confine the players once again for making money. These kids should have been making money decades ago. These kids should have been having opportunities to transfer years ago. Here, let me pump the brakes on people here for a second. So when a college football coach like Brian Kelly can have the Notre Dame job, and then all of a sudden he decides right there before he goes to his bowl game, he tells kids that he had been recruiting there at Notre Dame, guess what, guys? I got a better opportunity. I'm going to LSU. And I'm going to take the $100 million and a $54 million buyout because they're going to give me a better chance at winning a national championship. I don't ever remember coaches having to sit out when they left programs behind. So if a kid gets that opportunity now too, I'm all for it. Now, look, I do think that inside of a year, you need to cut that back. I don't think a kid should be able to transfer more than once inside of a calendar year if you want to go down that lane. But wait till you get to the Supreme Court. You are never going to tell. I don't care what Trump thinks. If that guy thinks you're going to get out there and you're going to put some sort of executive order in place that you're going to tell a kid that he has to stay in a place, get that by the courts. That's not happening. This is free enterprise now. These kids are making money on their name. They're making money on their likeness, and power to them. Way to go. Think about something here with Arch Manning. Before he leaves and goes into the National Football League, think about this. He's made at least $6 million a year. If that guy plays and stays all 4 years in Austin, before he even signs an NFL contract, he'll have north of $20 million. Before he even signs a contract with the National Football League, he already comes from generational wealth. This kid gets an opportunity to maybe control the narrative on where he goes. I love the fact that now kids can make money. And this is one of the reasons why you're seeing kids staying in college. By the way, if you're under the notion that kids were in college to get an education, I mean, again, folks, that's like believing that amateur sports was real when you were looking at the amount of money that television networks, coaches, and athletic directors were making. Look at where college football is today. College football is the queen to the king, which is NFL football, when it comes to television ratings. You got near 16 to 17 million people watching any one of these Big Ten or Southeastern Conference games. Of course, this is going to be a big priority for coaches and for people to try to curtail being paid when you're talking about paying student athletes. Look, I love the fact you're telling me I would never go into the National Football League. If I was making $700,000 at the University of Miami, you got a better chance at being an astronaut than making it in the National Football League. Why wouldn't you stay in college and make $700,000 at Ole Miss, LSU, or the University of Miami? This is why the kids all stayed in school this last year. These kids, and the depth of the draft was not great from rounds 2 down. Why? Because kids wanted to stay. Kids were transferring. Look at the top 32 draft picks. There were only 2 kids that were from non-Power 4. The year previous, there was only 1. And the year previous to that, there was only 1. Think about this. In the last 64 draft picks, only 4 kids are from non-Power 4. Why? transfer. Kids getting the ability to be able to go where they want to work and where they can make money with their likeness and image. Guys, college sports, you can't put the toothpaste back into the container here. This bad puppy's out. I get the fact that you want to sit there and you want to try to put some guardrails on it. I'm all for the guardrails. But this thing's past its time now. It's out. There's no going back on this. This is what you have. And this is why college sports is getting better and better. We're going to talk with the legendary Amy Trask. And we're going to get some football conversation going with her. That's next. Right here on Sports Grid.